So fun fact, I didn't get my start in weddings actually as an event planner. I started doing other events for brands mostly, for brands like Heineken, HBO, Nike, Google, and so on. I worked at an experiential marketing agency. I'll get a little bit into that. But I get asked a lot when I tell people that I transitioned to weddings from doing brand events. And a lot of people are kind of surprised a lot of times. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about that. But before we get into all of that, I wanted to say hello. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jane Yu. I am the co-founder and lead wedding planner at UNS Events. And I help engaged couples plan and design their wedding from beginning to end. I love supporting engaged couples, not only by providing step-by-step guidance along their planning journey, but also helping them make intentional decisions and choices that are personal and important to them. Because bottom line, it is your wedding day, so you should have a lot of fun planning it and making sure it feels like yours. So today's session isn't really going to be about any how-tos, but I did want to share my why and my purpose. And I like taking this time at the end of the year just to reflect a little bit about um, getting back to that, because I feel like the year is so busy. Every quarter, there's like something going on and there's events going on, and it's really hard to kind of like get grounded in the purpose. And sometimes it gets lost because you're just so busy or burned out. And I don't love that feeling. So I wanted to just, reflect a little bit, share a little bit with you about why I do what I do. And a tip, if you are interviewing planners for your wedding, wherever you may be based, I would definitely ask them why they became a wedding planner, what they love about it, and also maybe the core values of their business. I feel like that's a really great way to tell the kind of character of somebody, their approach. If they don't have an answer ready, that means they haven't really thought about it, which to me, like something in the wedding industry, is not necessarily a red flag, but it would definitely give me pause because there's just so many different vendors out there that you can work with, and there's really great ones. So I would hope that you would find the best one that's the fit for you. And of course, experience and all of that matters. But I think beyond that, getting to know the planner and vendors as a person and how they're going to show up for you really makes a difference. For me, just to give a little bit of context, I have always chased the feeling of fulfillment, like being fulfilled by my job, just in my career choices. I've had a lot of different kind of lives, and event planning is really kind of the one that stuck with me. When I first got started, I really wanted to become an event producer. I was changing fields and industries, and I think the process of it really made a lot of sense to me. So for example, just going from A to B to C, seeing the event from beginning to end really was going to make a difference, or not make a difference, but it made sense to me, and I loved seeing that. And sometimes my other jobs before that, when I was working in different industries, the process wasn't always linear, or it wasn't always it just took a long time to get to the end product. And I think I was very results oriented, so events totally made a lot of sense to me. When I first started, I was in event production. I was at a company that was growing rapidly, and I was really lucky to work on so many different types of events and kind of grow as the events grew as well. And that was back in like 2013 or 2012, when social media was really picking up, when content was really picking up, and it was really at the beginning stages of all of that. And so it was really exciting to be a part of that. And I did get to work with a lot of cool brands, like I mentioned. And eventually, after doing it for 6+ years, I felt the stress of it all kind of start to weigh down on me, in terms of just the amount of work that we were doing, and then just the rapid pace at which things had to happen, as well as just having to pick up and travel like for a site visit at a moment's notice. And that was fun, I think, when I was younger. But then as I became older and just got through it and, was working on like 20 to 50 plus events a year, it just felt like a lot. And so I decided to take a step out of that, move into the freelance world so I have a little bit more of a control over my schedule. And then I decided to really focus on weddings because weddings, I had always been working on them on the side for friends or friends of friends. And I'd always been doing like 2 to 4 weddings a year in some capacity. And I just found myself really enjoying that process so much more. And so I decided that when we started UNS, it was actually called something else. When we first started it, that I wanted to focus mostly on weddings. And of course, over the years, it's kind of evolved as well into the types of events that I want to do. But mostly, I do want to serve engaged couples. So I wanted to talk a little bit about why I love weddings because I think it's important. And again, I feel like you should probably ask your vendors if you can, if it's important to you, the type of people that you're working with, why they got into it, why they do what they do, because I feel like weddings are so interpersonal. And that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about that I love about wedding planning, working with wedding planning clients. I love the interpersonal relationship. I think when I was doing brand events, it was a ton of fun. We had a lot of budget to play with, but it wasn't very personal. And of course, you had the rapport with your client, but at the end of the day, the end product, it was for a brand and usually for a physical product or marketing or some type of sales. And so at a certain point, it just didn't feel fulfilling or meaningful to me anymore. And even though a lot of the events were very culture driven, community driven, at the end of the day, it just didn't excite me anymore. And I just love the one-to-one relationship with my couples where I get to really walk them through the journey and be with them for the better part of the year and really get to know them, get to know their story, and then help craft their wedding around that. And I think that's the number one reason that I love weddings over other types of events. I've been really lucky to have good clients. For the most part, I've never had, knock on wood, I guess, I've never had really, anyone being unkind to me. Of course, though, there are those times where everything just kind of clicks. Like the venue, the vendors, the clients, the team. And there's no wedding that goes completely flawlessly. Like that's just not possible in terms of logistics and all of that. But sometimes when everything just comes together, the day can feel like magic. And those are not super common. I don't want to say they're super rare, but it's not, every wedding is usually pretty good or very good. But sometimes when you have that magical group and everything just works and the energy is right and the guests are, have that great energy too, it just feels like magic. And we've definitely had a handful of those. And I'm always so grateful to those clients because that is my North Star for every client. And I always work to get there. No matter what, I always try my best. But I love those moments when it just feels like magic. Secondly, number two, I like the feeling of the fact that I feel like I'm actually helping my clients and I'm actually supporting them. I'm not in a life or death, like super change the world type of industry. Like wedding planning is something I think is necessary, but it's also a nice to have. And so when clients do hire me, I'm really grateful for that. But when they do hire me, I fully hope that I am actually being helpful to them, that I am taking stress off their plate, that I am able to provide guidance that they otherwise would not have received or known. And that's really the goal at the end of the day. And it's personally satisfying and gratifying to feel that. And so I am very grateful to anyone who takes a chance on me, especially when it's like a cold call, because I mean, I hope that most vendors really put their best foot forward, but you never know what stage also a vendor might be in. They might be really strapped or have low bandwidth or whatever. And I always try to put myself in a position to set the event and the client up for success. And being able to do that, I just feel a very meaningful fulfillment from that. And so that's like another reason that I love wedding planning. It's not quite the same as when I do a marketing event for a brand, because yes, it's meaningful in the sense that the brands have stories to tell, but at the end of the day, it's really all about selling and consumerism. And of course, I like the next product as much as the next person. I like a product as much as the next person, but at the same time, a wedding is really such a big celebration, and I just love being there for that moment and love supporting that moment for my clients. Brands were cool to work on because, well, there was definitely a lot more budget a lot of times, depending on the company we were working with. But of course, weddings are a little bit different. There's obviously high-end luxury weddings that have larger budgets, but not most weddings aren't super high budget. And so working on brands really gave me an eye or kind of a perspective on how to craft an event around branding, colors, around a story that the brand was trying to tell. And I think the other thing that I really love about weddings is the personal details. And I treat the couple story kind of like how I approach brand storytelling, which is, you figure out the story and then figure out how to make certain decisions, design choices, venue selections, even vendor options, like all the choices based around the couple's brand, so to speak, even like graphics and, paper items, etc. And I think that's what differentiates me a little bit from maybe other wedding planners. I can't really say, who's had corporate experience or not, but that's something that I can bring to the table and that I offer as a different perspective. And so I love the personal details, being able to help personalize elements of the wedding, which don't have to break the bank, by the way, which I've definitely talked about. And I am working on a new just digital product for you. It'll be free. It's going to be a little worksheet that's going to give you like some clarity, a guide to really setting the tone, how to make your wedding feel like yours without all the overwhelm. And so I'm working on that, a little worksheet, so that you can kind of just get your thoughts out on paper and just figure out next steps from there. And lastly, I said this already, but overall, I think just the joyful time period that a wedding is. Yes, it's stressful. And I've seen so many comments from people about post-wedding blues or just minor hiccups like messing up the day or wishing it hadn't happened. But here's what I'll say to you is focus on the love, focus on the joy, and honestly, you're not alone. Minor hiccups are going to happen. Hopefully you have professionals to guide you and help catch those things when they happen. But most of the time, also guests don't even notice. Even if it does happen, it's not a big deal. And you just got to roll with the punches because, everyone's human. And of course, every moment is important. And everyone tries their best, I hope, for your wedding day, but things are going to happen. So I think it's really important to really try and focus on all the love that you're receiving, all the joy that is being experienced by you and your guests, and everything else will just feel, will melt away. If it's something that wasn't supposed to happen, you can brush it off. if you ground yourself in that moment. And I think weddings, no matter like what kind of style, how standard it is, how traditional it is, how unconventional it is, whatever it may be, I think they're always going to be beautiful because it's about you and your partner. And I really love being a part of all of those moments. And again, especially when I work one-to-one with a client for the better part of the year, I'm really getting entrenched into their relationship, into their story, and it's really fun thing to witness and to help work through. So, if you are working with a wedding planner, I hope that you find one that's a really good fit for you, because I think that's super important. And if not, I hope that you're taking things in stride, that you're grounding yourself in your love and just going through the motions and doing things little by little so that you're not too stressed out. I hope that my videos have been helpful. And that's like the final reason that I really love doing wedding planning. Not to say that, brand work didn't bring me joy at one point, because it was super fun. But I think at a certain point, I reached my goal of, being a really good event producer, first as like a junior event producer and then working my way up to the director position at a company. And even now I do freelance and I subcontract for other companies because a girl's got to pay her bills, but as a lead producer. But I can't say it brings me the same type of joy that a wedding does. Some are really fun to work on, and I like being challenged and working on difficult things sometimes. But yeah, I really can't say that it's the same as working on a wedding, for sure. I mean, I feel like I not cry, but I definitely tear up at almost every wedding, whether it's the vows or the first dance or the parent dances or some dedication that the couple decides to do or a speech. Like there's just always some type of emotional reaction that I have. And I think that, goes a long way, at least for me. I like to reflect on this always, and because it affirms that I want to keep doing what I'm doing. A lot of times I am also disillusioned by, or just not happy and content with the way the business is going. This year was particularly slow. It was tough, but on the flip side, would I rather be working for someone else or have a full-time job that's not bringing me joy? I definitely say no to that. And so this is the choice that I've made, to be a wedding planner, to be the owner of a wedding business. And I'm really excited to just keep building and keep hopefully serving you as an engaged couple or a wedding enthusiast, and see what comes out of just building this community. I would really just love to hear from you if there's anything that you want to discuss, if there's anything that you're wondering about that you're really struggling with. I come back every week on here, and I haven't really had many people join my lives yet, but hopefully that's going to change sooner than later. But thank you to everyone who has been rewatching my lives or watching those replays. And I really hope that it's been helping you along the way, even if it's just to remember that you're not alone in this. And, the wedding industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I've seen stats out there about how a lot of businesses, many of the businesses or most of the businesses in the wedding industry are female-owned, which I love. And of course, yes, I want to make money and all of that. But at the end of the day, I think it's all of the people involved that really keep it going, that keep me grounded. And I'm really excited to see what 2026 brings, and hopefully can bring more content and more products that are going to be useful for you as you're planning your wedding. Next week, I'm going to talk a little bit about trusting yourself and making decisions when there's so much to do. I feel like when you're rushed, definitely it's harder to make decisions. So we'll get a little bit more into that and how to really trust yourself, be confident in the decisions that you're making. I think that's important to know. as you're going on your journey. If you want to get started, if you're just looking to get started, I do have my free wedding planning guide available for download. It's in the description. The link is in the description. It's also here, tinyurl.com/bestweddingguide. And you can also check out my digital wedding planner and just be on the lookout for new stuff coming your way. I'm really excited to be working on it and sharing it with you. And I hope you're having a great holiday season. And thank you so much for joining. I will see you next week, same time.